So the two main principles of compound interest is your investment, which is that snowball, and then the hill, how long the hill is, which is time.
Okay.
Okay. So when we're waiting till maybe our 40s and 50s and even 60s to start thinking about, oh shoot, what am I going to live on for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
That hill gets smaller. And a smaller hill does not allow the snowball to compound and roll down as much because we shortened the amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, when we think about in our 20s or earlier, okay, I want to start this retirement plan or this plan for my future, whatever it is, awesome. But when we put it in a tool where you can lose money, it's like as the ball is rolling down the hill, chunks of the ball is being taken out.
Right.
Or heaven forbid 2008 happen again and half of it's lopped off and it just disappears into thin air. Mm-hmm. Then you're starting all over again, or you're having to wait time for that ball to get back to where it was. And what's the number one thing that we will never get back in our lives? Time.
This is such a fascinating topic because I think you nailed it. We are so an instant gratification, short attention span society. And what I was mentioning earlier is I'm noticing that as my time horizons change, meaning I used to think in days and weeks and months financially. Mm-hmm. And I think the average person probably does when we're in a survival mode. To now I'm looking at months, years, and decades. And once that shift happens, our values change significantly. And it's almost like the instant gratification it doesn't provide what it used to once upon a time. And there's such a significant internal piece that comes with this type of education and making decisions from this internal place of security.
Like we said before, we're not planning on getting cancer or having a heart attack or having a stroke or getting into a major car accident and having to learn to walk again or getting a hip replacement. We don't plan on those things. So when life throws us those curveballs, isn't it nice to know that the mortgage is still going to be paid, the car payment's going to be paid, food's going to be on the table because we have access to that death benefit beforehand if we need it.
That's incredible. And just out of curiosity for us entrepreneurs, some of the things that are big surprises for us as business owners are sometimes things that don't have to do with anything, let's say medical related, but sometimes like business emergencies. So are there stipulations on accessing the funds? Like, does it have to be medical related?
On a living benefits only policy, yes, it does. But for those business owners, that's where I recommend that tax-free retirement account. And in that tax-free retirement account, that is where you do have access without any fees or penalties to use in your business if you need to.
Okay, perfect timing.
Great segue.
Let's go right into that because I can see the value of what we just talked about. And then I was just thinking for myself, like you said, entrepreneurship is, it's a cycle, it's a rhythm, and we don't always know where we're going to be. We don't always know what we're going to be responsible for financially. So I'm very curious about what tax-free retirement can look like.
Absolutely. So we know as entrepreneurs, we cannot have a 401k because 401ks are only offered through employers. Right. So for example, a solopreneur, maybe I've only heard of my options are a Roth IRA or an IRA, or there's even Solo K. There's a lot of different plans out there that are in the market. Okay. And as you mentioned at the beginning, you can't really plan because the market goes up and down, up and down, up and down. It's unreliable and it's uncontrollable. We can't control it. It just does what it does, right? Yeah. Well, as an entrepreneur, we're already putting so much on the line because we're starting a business and we don't really have time to make up for losses. We don't have time to really be like, oh, okay, yeah, I can recover from this crash that might happen tomorrow, because what if you want to retire in 5 years? So what the tax-free retirement account does is every single penny that you put in that account, it locks it in. There's no losses. So it really uses the power of compound interest to
Uh-huh.
your advantage. Compound interest is the number one wealth building tool that we have. And that compound interest, it doesn't change. It's been the same the last 2,000 years. It's going to be the same the next 2,000 years. It's a principle that does not change. So, really understanding compound interest and using tools that use that compound interest to the best of the ability is what we have actually done, is in creating that tax-free retirement account.
So I guess the part that I'm super curious about is the tax-free part, because that's something I have never heard before, meaning I was looking into a SEP IRA was kind of what I was being guided towards. And then it was a little confusing because she was letting me know that it reduces my tax liability now, but once I, reach into that in the future, then I'm paying taxes. And it just, I don't know, it felt a little bit confusing. And I decided not to move forward because I simply didn't understand what I was agreeing to. So I'm really curious what's the part that's tax-free in this particular option?
So you do pay money on the taxes today, because are taxes going up or are they going down?
I have no idea.
Historically, they go up.
Oh.
So every year, historically, taxes go up. Okay.
Oh, man.
So what the tax-free retirement does is it pays you pay the taxes on the money today, then you put it in the account, it grows tax-free, and then when you're ready down the road to access that money, you access it tax-free.
Okay, I got it.
That's the beauty of it.
So does it affect, so let's just use the SEP IRA as an example, at least what the little bit I understand was that whatever you have a certain allotment that you can deposit each year that then reduces your tax liability for that year. So it sounds like this one is maybe a little bit backwards where you're paying taxes up front, which now knowing that taxes are going up every year seems like the no-brainer choice. So what does that look like to an entrepreneur? Let's just say I chose to do something like that this year. Would that increase my tax liability slightly, or would there be any liability benefits?
I know we're all of the mindset as entrepreneurs that we don't want to pay taxes, and whatever we can do to offload the tax liability today, let's do that. I totally understand that. However, when we do that, when we want to avoid paying taxes today, we're basically deferring that tax to later.
Okay.
So I understand we don't want to pay it now because we're a now society. We want that money now. We want that tax-free now. We don't want to pay taxes now. Let's just worry about it later in the future. Well, then that's just going to be higher in the future. And not only are we going to pay taxes higher in the future, but when your money is in a tax deferred account, which is great because it all grows tax deferred, well, then instead of paying money on taxes on a small amount of money now, we're paying more taxes on a huge amount of money in the future. So if I can kind of tell you a story real quick, think of it as like you're a farmer and you grow soybeans. Okay. And you come into my seed store and you say, Hannah, I don't want to grow soybeans anymore. I want to grow corn, but I just want to try out a little corner of the field. So just give me a 5-gallon bucket of seed. Okay. Here's your 5-gallon bucket. Great news. The government just came out with this awesome program where you don't have to pay taxes on this 5-gallon bucket of seed. You can pay for it down the road. Do you want to pay the taxes today or not? Well, I hate paying taxes, so why would I pay taxes? Let's not pay the taxes today. Yeah. Okay. But Kat, remember, if you don't pay taxes on this 5-gallon bucket of seed, you're going to pay taxes on the 6 truckload of corn at harvest time. Okay. So knowing that, do you want to pay it on the seed or on the 6 truckloads of harvest? Brilliant. That's exactly what those tax deferred accounts do. They defer paying taxes on the small amount and you pay taxes on the bigger amount in the future. Because people that have their money wrapped up in a 401k or an IRA, that money is already labeled tax deferred with the government. So we've got to be able to protect that somehow. So that's when
Oh.
we roll those over into these things called indexed accounts, where they're, again, guaranteed never to lose money. So it really is building more wealth. Of course, it's already tax deferred money, so it grows tax deferred, but at least there'll be more of it and they won't go through losses.
Oh, that's incredible. So that's great news, you guys. If any of you are in one of those tax deferred programs, that there is still a way to benefit without suffering the major losses that would come with it. You mentioned that the bulk of people's retirement is going to the IRS. And so that kind of, maybe we've already covered it, but I didn't know if you had anything more to share on that, because I did not know until this conversation that that was the case at all.
Yes, it's unfortunate that people just don't know what we don't know until you're seeking out, what do I know, not know, right? And then you run into people that have done the research like me, and there's others like me. I'm not saying I'm the only one. There's a lot of others out there. But unfortunately, we're in a society where when we get a job, or even if we don't, we're entrepreneurs, we're only heard or taught the 401k, the IRA, the Roth IRA, the SEP IRA, all those things that are in the market. And what people are not understanding is that's growing tax deferred. So when you take that money out down the road, it's going to be taxed again at that higher tax rate. Not to mention, it's not having the chance to really utilize the number one wealth building tool, which is compound interest, because of the roller coaster ride of the market. When it goes up and it goes down, it goes up and it goes down. That loss that we're experiencing in our portfolios, it takes time to get our money back. And when we're wasting time getting money back, recovering from a loss, that wastes the time that we need for that compound interest to work. So compound interest, can I go over that real quick? Because a lot of people don't even know what that means. Okay. Perfect. So think of it kind of like a snowball on the top of a snowy hill.
Okay.
Right? We pack a snowball on the top of a snowy hill. We let it roll down the hill. What happens?
Gets bigger.
It grows. Yes. It compounds on itself. So that little bit of snow picks up a little bit more, that little bit more picks up even more, and it compounds on itself. Mm-hmm. So the two main principles of compound interest is your investment, which is that snowball, and then the hill, how long the hill is, which is time.
Okay.
Okay. So when we're waiting till maybe our 40s and 50s and even 60s to start thinking about, oh shoot, what am I going to live on for the rest of my life? Yep. That hill gets smaller, and a smaller hill does not allow the snowball to compound and roll down as much, because we shortened the amount of time. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, when we think about in our 20s or earlier, okay, I want to start this retirement plan or this plan for my future, whatever it is, awesome. But when we put it in a tool where you can lose money, it's like as the ball is rolling down the hill, chunks of the ball is being taken out. Right. Or heaven forbid, 2008 happen again, and half of it's lopped off and it just disappears into thin air. Mm-hmm. Then you're starting all over again, or you're having to wait time for that ball to get back to where it was. And what's the number one thing that we will never get back in our lives? Time. Mm-hmm. And time is what is needed for the compound interest to work. So when you put your money in a tool where you never experience any losses, it compounds, and the ball never stops rolling. It doesn't have to make up for losses. You actually get to utilize the full amount of time that you have in your life. We never know what that is. Right. That's right. Mm-hmm. I have 3 people in my family that have survived over the age of 100, so that's awesome in my genes. Wow. But my dad passed away at the ripe old age of 56. Oh, sorry. Right. So we never know when that time is. So starting as soon as possible and as early as possible, even if it's $5 a day, even if it's just $100 a month, start something, start that snowball on that compound interest. Wow. You'd be amazed if you do the math that little bit of money over time adds up to massive wealth. If you understand how compound interest works. And I can show everyone all of that on a one-to-one basis, but it's amazing. Oh gosh, this is so exciting.